PERM labor market test scam, a step in the H-1B to green card journey. How companies claim there are no qualified U.S. workers to secure a green card. To understand this problem, let's take two people, Jane and Rajesh. Jane is 40 years old. She works as an analyst at Global Corporation. She earns $100,000 per year. She has kids. Her insurance cost is high. Global Corp has a problem. Executives want to increase the profit margin, so they discuss different ideas. They finally come up with labor arbitrage as a solution. To do labor arbitrage, they bring in Rajesh, who is 25 years old. His job title is analyst. His salary is $80,000. He likely has no kids because he is 25. His insurance cost is low because he is young. His work status is H-1B. Why is the H-1B very attractive to the employer? H-1B allows the employer to pay a relatively low wage. The key word here is relative. An H-1B worker is compliant because the employer controls the visa. Also, you will have a hard time finding an H-1B worker who is a whistleblower. So the H-1B has a lot of benefits for an employer. As a result of Global Corp's labor arbitrage, Jane is out. Rajesh is in. Now let's look into how Rajesh got his H-1B visa. He could have used two paths. One path is the student route with an F-1 visa. Path 2 is the direct route. The difference between Path 1 and Path 2 is the visa fee payment and the total timeline. For example, let's assume that Rajesh chose Path 1. He came to America with an F-1 visa. He could have done a master's for 2 years and then gotten work authorization called OPT. And then he also got the OPT STEM extension if he did his master's in a STEM major. So, he works for the employer for 1 + 3 years, roughly 4 years. Within that period, he needs to get an H-1B visa. There are some key details with this Path 1 H-1B visa. There is no $100,000 one-time application fee, and there is no country cap for the H-1B. And the H-1B is a lottery system. The total timeline is between 3 and 9 years. So, since Rajesh is using a master's, his timeline is probably 3 to 5 years to get the H-1B. The companies using this route include almost all US-based major tech firms, startups, and job consultancies. Path 2 is a foreigner coming directly on an H-1B visa to the US. The key details are, it has the same lottery system, but it has a $100,000 one-time application fee. The national interest waiver is included in this fee, and there is no country cap as well. And the timeline is much quicker. Companies using this route: TCS, Infosys, Cognizant, Accenture, Wipro, HCL. Remember, an employer needs to sponsor the H-1B visa. It is not self-sponsored. Now we look into the H-1B to green card journey. Once Rajesh got his H-1B through Path 1, he can get a stay for 3 years and he can apply for 1 extension. So in total, he can stay up to 6 years. After that, his H-1B ends and he has to go back to his home country. But there is something he can do through his employer. If his employer does the PERM labor market test and it gets certified, then the employer can apply for an I-140. Then the employer can do infinite H-1B extensions for Rajesh. Also, Rajesh can lock his priority date for a green card. Once the priority date is locked and Rajesh is extending his stay in America with the help of his employer doing infinite H-1B extensions, he would be monitoring something called the Visa Bulletin. He is looking at this particular date because Rajesh came on Path 1 and he came from India. He is looking at this date, April 1st, 2013. So what does it mean? Anyone who did the PERM labor market test and filed an I-140 before April 1st, 2013 can go ahead and apply for a green card. But there is an important note. Between locking his priority date and green card availability on the Visa Bulletin, if Rajesh has changed his employer or his location, his current employer has to redo the PERM labor market test and then redo the I-140, and then his employer can go ahead and file the I-485, adjustment of status, to get a green card. Now, Global Corp, having done labor arbitrage, became rich because it did the same to many Janes. Jane is struggling with unemployment. Rajesh successfully replaced Jane and got a green card. Why was H-1B created? The 1980s NSF shortage study. It is based on that study that H-1B was created. That study is completely flawed and disavowed. An NSF-backed study in the 1980s warned of a looming science and engineering shortage. Experts flagged serious methodological flaws, and an NSF director later disavowed it in congressional testimony. Despite that, the study helped build support for the 1990 Immigration Act. 1992 Congressional Reality Check. 7 scientists, engineers, and government officials told a congressional subcommittee that the alleged shortage rested on seriously flawed NSF analysis. Bottom line, the H-1B shortage narrative was built on bad data. Here I'll summarize Professor Norm Matloff's research on H-1B visa issues. You can look out his research of his H-1B visa to get detailed information. Now I'm going to just do the summary of it. Legal underpayment is systemic. Most H-1B wage violations occur within legal parameters. This is fundamentally a policy design problem, not an enforcement or fraud issue. Cheap labor practices extend throughout tech. The use of foreign workers to reduce labor costs pervades the entire technology sector, including major mainstream companies and foreign graduates from U.S. universities, not just outsourcing firms, body shops. Age discrimination is central to H-1B abuse. The vast majority of H-1Bs are under 30. Because younger workers cost less in both wages and health insurance, employers exploit the program to bypass hiring Americans over 35. The labor shortage narrative is fabricated. No independent study has demonstrated a genuine tech worker shortage. Only industry-funded research supports this claim. HR departments systematically filter out candidates they consider too expensive, those over 35, preventing managers from ever seeing these qualified applicants. Claims about poor American K-12 math and science performance are a red herring and deeply hypocritical, given that the same companies alleging Jane can't do math are simultaneously laying off tens of thousands of Americans who excelled in math and science as students. The best and brightest claim is mostly false. While exceptional global talent should be welcomed, only a tiny fraction of H-1Bs fall into this category. Meanwhile, experienced American professionals are pushed out after a decade in the field, and talented students are discouraged from entering tech careers altogether. The H-1B program is creating an internal brain drain of American expertise. This is our current situation. Summarizing further, H-1B facilitates offshoring rather than preventing it. Despite industry claims that importing H-1B workers keeps jobs domestic, the visa actually serves as a tool for transferring work overseas. Government agencies have enabled wage suppression. The National Science Foundation explicitly promoted H-1B as a mechanism to suppress PhD salaries by saturating the market with foreign students. The NSF acknowledged this would drive domestic students away from doctoral programs, which has occurred exactly as predicted. Immigration produces no net innovation advantage. Per capita rates of entrepreneurship and patents among immigrant engineers match those of native-born engineers. Displacing American workers has therefore generated no measurable positive effect. Fast-track green cards won't solve the core problem. Such proposals are fundamentally flawed. First, the EB-1 category for exceptional talent already has short wait times. More critically, since most foreign workers are young, granting them green cards would simply perpetuate the displacement of American workers over 35. In this video, my focus is on PERM labor market test, not just exposing the H-1B visa. Let's understand the PERM labor market test. As I mentioned, that's the focus of this video. What it requires? A U.S. employer must document recruitment showing no qualified, willing, and able U.S. workers are available before sponsoring an H-1B worker for permanent employment, that is, EB-2 or EB-3 green card. Why it was created. PERM labor certification started in March 2005, with the intention not to replace domestic workers with foreign workers. Side note, no labor market test is required before filing an H-1B or renewing an H-1B. If companies claim a labor shortage, Why isn't proof required upfront before applying for H-1B? That's a question you need to think about. Let's see how companies are doing the PERM labor market test recruitment process. Remember, this is for securing the priority date for a green card applicant, or applying for a green card and to do infinite H-1B extensions. This is Exhibit A, PERM recruitment paper job ad. That means this recruitment process is being done by posting paper job ads. Here is an example. A company called Quest Global Services NA. For this job position, you have to email your resume to US H-1B. This is another example. This job ad is a newspaper job ad, likely curated by Jobs Now. Jobs Now is a job board that curates hidden PERM job ads from newspapers. For this job, you have to mail your resume to an address in California. Another example? Here you have to send your resume directly to the immigration department. Another example goes one step further. You have to send your resume directly to the immigration law firm called Fragamen. This is obvious. Malicious compliance is happening. The PERM labor market test is not conducted in good faith. How PERM recruiting works today. Job ads are placed in Sunday print newspapers or on obscure or hidden websites that are hard to find. Resumes are routed to immigration law firms or the immigration department of the company, and requested by postal mail, fax, or email, not through normal application channels. Why isn't this PERM recruitment process in good faith? Modern job seekers do not search Sunday newspapers or mail or fax resumes. The current channels suppress applicants, letting employers claim no qualified Americans to secure PERM approval. The irony is, this is legal under current rules. We have significant unemployment among Americans. For example, this is from Newsweek. Data from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York in February showed 6.1% of recent computer science grads were unemployed, while 16.5% were underemployed, meaning they were in jobs not requiring their degree. Those figures were 7.5% and 17% for engineering graduates. What I am advocating in this video: make the PERM labor market test, the recruitment process for which I showed the job ads, real and in good faith. Post every PERM job ad in one national, public, searchable, electronic portal. Take and keep all applications or resumes electronically with a full audit trail. Do not certify PERM when a qualified U.S. worker is available, exactly as the law requires. About 750,000 jobs are in H-1B status today. To lock in priority dates for those roles, companies have previously certified via PERM that no qualified Americans were available. Since then, many workers have changed employers and locations because they are doing infinite H-1B extensions. When their priority date becomes finally current, the PERM must be done again. If the recruitment process isn't modernized, companies can repeat the same claim that no qualified American exists using outdated, hard-to-find postings and paper resume intake. I am advocating to apply the existing law fairly and honestly. Before fixing the PERM recruitment process, this is the current state. After fixing the PERM recruitment process, if the labor market test is fair and in good faith, this is what it leads to. People who are already on H-1B will not get green cards, and those jobs will be opened. New applicants will not pass the PERM labor market test, so the H-1B extension will not go beyond the 6th year. Note on H-1B impact. As Professor Norm Matloff talked about in his research, H-1B is not for bringing the brightest and best from all around the world. H-1B is not for solving the labor shortage in America. It's rather obvious because they are essentially hiding the job postings in the PERM labor market test. If there was a labor shortage, they wouldn't have to hide the PERM job ads. That goes against what they are saying. H-1B is corporate greed, doing labor arbitrage on the American middle class. It affects white, Black, Hispanic, Jewish, and Asian Americans. In fact, conservatives and liberals. It puts them out of jobs. Make the PERM labor market test real and in good faith to end American labor displacement through H-1B. Final note on H-1B impact. H-1B has secondary effects and it is a national security issue.